The nurse was checking my vitals when I decided to order flowers for my wife. I'd been in the hospital for 6 days after my emergency appendectomy turned into a complicated infection. Amanda hadn't visited once. Work was busy, she'd texted. She'd come this weekend for sure. I pulled up our bank app to transfer money to my personal account for the delivery. That's when I saw it. Our joint account balance was $47. We'd had $23,000 in there last week. I blinked, refreshed the page. Still $47. My heart monitor started beeping faster. The nurse looked concerned. "You okay, hun?" I couldn't speak. I scrolled through the transaction history with shaking hands. Withdrawal, transfer, withdrawal, all approved by Amanda. All made while I was lying in a hospital bed, too drugged up to check my phone properly. The last transfer had happened yesterday. $6,000 moved to an account I didn't recognize. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button now. Your support means everything to me. If you've ever felt underestimated by your own people around you, you'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next. I called Amanda immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. It rang 4 times before she answered. "Hey babe, can't really talk, I'm in a meeting." Her voice was casual, breezy, like nothing was wrong. "Amanda, where's our money?" I asked. My voice came out rougher than I intended. There was a pause, a long one. "What are you talking about?" But her tone had shifted, defensive now. "Our joint account, it's empty. Where did $23,000 go?" I heard her take a breath. "I had some expenses come up. We can talk about this when you get home." Some expenses? $23,000 worth of expenses while I was in the hospital fighting an infection. "What expenses?" I demanded. "I really can't do this right now," she said. Her voice had that edge it got when she wanted to end a conversation. "I'll explain everything later." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone for a solid minute, then I called the bank. The representative confirmed what I already knew. Amanda had authorization on the account. Every withdrawal was legal. Nothing fraudulent about it, except it was my money too. Money I'd saved. Money we'd built together over 4 years of marriage. The nurse came back with my medication. "You look upset," she said gently. "Bad news?" I didn't know how to explain it. My wife had drained our savings while I was hospitalized. What kind of person does that? I took the pills and tried to calm down. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe someone had stolen her identity. Maybe there was an emergency she hadn't told me about yet. But the way she'd answered the phone, that defensive tone, that quick hang-up, she knew exactly what she'd done, and she didn't want to talk about it. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that account balance, $47. I'd been so careful about money. I'd worked overtime for years. We were saving for a house. Amanda knew that. She'd agreed to the plan. We'd talked about it constantly. Our dream home, our future. Now it was gone, and I didn't even know why. The next morning, I called my brother Kyle. He was the only person I trusted completely. I told him everything. He went quiet for a long moment. "Man, that's messed up," he finally said. "Have you talked to her since?" I told him about the phone call, about how she dismissed me. "Something's not right," Kyle said slowly. "People don't just drain accounts like that, not without a reason." That's what I was afraid of. What reason could possibly justify this? What was she hiding? Amanda didn't call me back, not that day, not the next. I texted her 3 times, asked her to explain, asked her to at least visit so we could talk face to face. Nothing, just silence. On day 8 of my hospital stay, my doctor said I could go home. I was relieved and terrified at the same time. Home meant facing Amanda. Home meant getting answers. I took an Uber because my car was at home and Amanda hadn't offered to pick me up. The driver made small talk. I barely heard him. When we pulled up to our apartment building, I saw Amanda's car in the lot. She was home. I paid the driver, grabbed my bag, and walked slowly to our door. My incision still hurt. I was supposed to be taking it easy, but my heart was pounding for entirely different reasons now. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Amanda was sitting on the couch with her laptop. She looked up when I walked in, no smile, no relief that I was home, just a careful, guarded expression. "Hey," she said, "you're back." That was it, no hug, no asking how I felt, just a flat acknowledgement that I existed. I set my bag down slowly. "We need to talk." She closed her laptop. "I know." We sat in our living room like strangers. I asked her again about the money. She looked at her hands for a long moment. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. I needed it for something important, something I couldn't tell you about. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? She stood up, started packing. I can't explain right now, you just have to trust me. Trust her. She'd stolen $23,000 from our joint account while I was hospitalized, and she wanted me to trust her. That's not how this works, I said. My voice was shaking now. That was our money, our savings. You don't get to just take it and refuse to explain. Amanda's face flushed. I had my reasons, okay? Can't you just accept that? No, I couldn't. I stood up too, ignoring the pain in my side. Tell me where the money went right now. She crossed her arms. I don't have to explain myself to you. That sentence hung in the air like poison. She didn't have to explain herself to her husband. About their joint savings. Are you serious right now? I asked. Amanda's expression hardened. You've always been so controlling about money. Maybe I just wanted to make a decision on my own for once. Controlling? I'd been careful, not controlling. We'd made a plan together. This wasn't about independence. This was about betrayal, and she was trying to make me the villain. We didn't speak for the rest of the day. I slept in the guest room. My incision throbbed, and I'd missed my afternoon medication because I was too upset to remember to take it. Around midnight, I heard Amanda on the phone in our bedroom. Her voice was low, but I could hear bits and pieces through the wall. He's asking questions. I know. I can't tell him yet. It'll be worth it, I promise. My blood went cold. I got up slowly, pressed my ear against the wall. No, he doesn't suspect anything else. The money's secure. Just a few more weeks. Who was she talking to? What didn't I suspect? I went back to the guest room and sat on the bed in the dark. My wife was hiding something big enough to steal $23,000 for, something she couldn't tell me about, something worth lying straight to my face about. The next morning, I called Kyle again, told him about the phone conversation I'd overheard. You need to protect yourself, he said immediately. Check your credit, make sure she hasn't opened anything in your name. I hadn't even thought of that. I pulled my credit report that afternoon while Amanda was at work. There it was, a credit card I'd never opened. $15,000 limit, maxed out. The card had been opened 3 months ago. All charges were cash advances and transfers. My hands started shaking again. She hadn't just taken our savings. She'd opened credit in my name, committed fraud, destroyed my credit score. I took screenshots of everything. Then I called a lawyer. The consultation was free. I explained the situation. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia, listened carefully. You need to document everything, she said, and you need to protect your remaining assets immediately. What remaining assets? I had $47. Patricia walked me through the steps. File a police report for identity theft. Freeze my credit. Open a new bank account in my name only. Move any remaining money immediately. Start divorce proceedings before she could do more damage. Divorce. The word felt surreal. We'd been married 4 years, together for 6. I'd loved this woman, trusted her completely, and she'd been systematically robbing me. I did everything Patricia suggested, filed the police report that same day. The officer taking my statement looked sympathetic but unsurprised. Happens more than you'd think, he said. Spouses have access to everything, makes it easy. Easy, Amanda had found it easy to betray me. I went home and started looking through our apartment with different eyes. What else had she lied about? What else was she hiding? I opened her desk drawer, feeling guilty but desperate. Inside was a folder I'd never seen before, real estate listings, for expensive condos downtown. Places we could never afford. Except now I knew where she'd planned to get the money. That night, Amanda came home late, after 9. She looked surprised to see me sitting at the kitchen table with the folder in front of me. What are you doing with that? Her voice was sharp. I stayed calm. Looking at the condos you want to buy with my money. Her face went pale, then red. You went through my things. The audacity was stunning. She'd committed fraud and she was mad that I'd found evidence. Answer the question, I said quietly. Are you buying a condo? She grabbed the folder. That's none of your business. You stole $23,000 from our joint account and maxed out a credit card in my name. Everything you're doing is my business. I watched her face as the words sank in. The credit card. She hadn't expected me to find out about that. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice wavered. Yes, you do. I pulled my credit report. I filed a police report. I have a lawyer. Amanda's expression shifted through several emotions. Shock, fear, then anger. You filed a police report against your own wife. Against someone who committed fraud, I corrected. That's what this is, fraud and theft. She slammed the folder on the table. You're overreacting. That credit card was for emergencies. Emergencies, right, like buying yourself a condo. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it, I said, right now. Or I'm moving forward with divorce proceedings. That got her attention. Real fear crossed her face now. You wouldn't. I stood up, ignoring the pain in my side. You emptied our savings while I was in the hospital. You opened credit cards in my name. You're planning to leave me anyway based on those real estate listings. So yeah, Amanda, I absolutely would. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Maybe she'd never actually known me at all. Amanda left. Went to her mother's house, she said. I didn't stop her. I needed space to think, to plan, to figure out what was real and what had been a lie. I spent the next 2 days going through our entire financial history, every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt I could find. The pattern was obvious once I looked for it. Small withdrawals over the past year, always just under the amount I'd notice. 100 here, 300 there. She'd been planning this for months, slowly draining our accounts, building her own nest egg while I worked overtime to save for our future. Our future. There was no our future. There had never been. I'd been a paycheck to her, a means to an end. The realization hurt worse than the surgery. Kyle came over that evening, took one look at me and ordered pizza. You look like hell, he said. I probably did. I hadn't slept properly in days. I just don't understand why, I said. We were sitting on my couch, half-eaten pizza between us. If she wanted to leave, why not just leave? Why steal everything first? Kyle shook his head. Some people are just like that, man. They want everything. They don't care who they hurt. I thought about the woman I'd married, the one who'd smiled at our wedding, who'd promised to love me in sickness and in health. Where had that person gone, or had she never existed? You think she was planning this from the beginning? I asked. Kyle considered. Maybe not from the start, but for a while now, yeah, this kind of thing takes planning. He was right. The fake credit card, the systematic withdrawals, the real estate research. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. Amanda had looked at me every day for months while planning to rob me blind. While I loved her, she was strategizing how to destroy me. Amanda called the next day, asked if we could meet, talk things through. I almost said no, but I needed answers, needed to hear her admit what she'd done. We met at a coffee shop near our apartment, neutral ground. She looked tired, good. I want to explain, she started. I waited. She took a breath. I met someone. My heart stopped. Of course there was someone else. 6 months ago, she continued. At a work conference, we connected. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. 6 months, half a year of lying to my face. So you stole our money to run away with him? I asked. She flinched at the word stole. It's not like that. We were saving together for a fresh start. We, her and him, not her and me. With my money, I said flatly. With money you took from our joint account and credit cards you opened in my name. Amanda looked down. I knew you'd never agree to a divorce. I needed to secure my future. Secure her future. Destroying mine. You could have just asked for a divorce, I said. We could have split everything fairly. She laughed, actually laughed. Fairly, you would have fought me on everything. This was easier. Easier. There was that word again. It had been easier to commit fraud than to have an honest conversation. Easier to betray me than to respect me enough to tell the truth. Who is he? I asked. Amanda hesitated, then seemed to decide it didn't matter anymore. His name is Troy. He works in finance. He's been helping me plan the transition. The transition. She meant stealing my money and starting a new life with Troy from finance. Does Troy know where your down payment money came from? I asked. She didn't answer. That was answer enough. Troy probably thought Amanda was some successful, independent woman. He had no idea she was funding their future by committing fraud against her husband. I've filed for divorce, I said, and I'm pressing charges for the credit card fraud. Amanda's face went white. You can't do that. I'm your wife. You stopped being my wife the moment you decided to rob me, I said. I stood up. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't contact me again except through her. I walked out, left her sitting there with her excuses and her justifications. I felt lighter somehow, not happy, not relieved, just done. The next week was a blur of legal paperwork. Patricia was efficient and thorough. The evidence was overwhelming. The fraudulent credit card. The drained accounts. The documented lies. Amanda's lawyer tried to argue that as my wife, she had a right to marital assets. Patricia shut that down fast. Fraud negates any claims to marital property, she said coldly. Your client committed identity theft. The district attorney is reviewing charges. Amanda's lawyer went quiet. They knew they had no case. The divorce proceedings moved faster than I expected. Amanda signed everything, probably trying to avoid criminal prosecution. I got the apartment. She got nothing. The credit card debt was assigned to her in the settlement. Troy left her 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I heard through mutual friends. Apparently, he'd found out about the fraud, about where the money had actually come from. Mr. Finance didn't want to be associated with a criminal. Amanda had to move back in with her mother, had to get a second job to pay off the credit card debt, had to face the consequences of her choices. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. Kyle took me out for my birthday. First one as a divorced man. We went to a bar, had a few drinks. "You doing okay?" he asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. "Yeah," I said, "I think I am." It was true. The betrayal still hurt. The lies still stung. But I was free from someone who'd never truly valued me, free from a relationship built on deception. "You deserve better," Kyle said. "Someone who sees your worth." I hoped he was right. Rebuilding took time. I paid off what remained of the credit card debt that Amanda couldn't cover, rebuilt my credit slowly. Started saving again, got a promotion at work, found a new apartment, smaller than the old one but mine, completely mine. I started dating again after a year, nothing serious, just getting back out there, learning to trust people again. It was harder than I expected. Every time someone got close, I wondered what they were hiding, what they wanted from me. My therapist said that was normal, trauma responses, she called them. We worked through it together. I learned that not everyone was like Amanda, that most people were decent and honest, that one person's betrayal didn't define everyone else. Slowly, the walls came down. I met someone eventually. Emma. She was a teacher. Kind and funny and completely transparent about everything. It was refreshing. When I told her about Amanda, about what had happened, she just held my hand. "That must have been horrible," she said. Not judgment, not pity, just empathy. That's when I knew she was different. Emma and I took things slow. I was cautious. She understood. We built trust gradually, brick by brick. She showed me her finances without me asking, offered to sign a prenup when we talked about marriage. "I never want you to wonder," she said. "Never want you to worry that I'm with you for the wrong reasons." We got married on a beach, small ceremony, just family and close friends. Kyle was my best man. When Emma said her vows, promising to be honest and faithful and true, I believed her. Not because I was naive, but because she'd proven it every single day, because actions mattered more than words. We bought a house together, both our names on everything. Joint accounts we both monitored, complete transparency. It wasn't about control. It was about partnership, about respecting each other enough to be open. Sometimes I wondered what Amanda was doing, if she ever regretted her choices, if Troy had been worth destroying her marriage and her integrity for. I found out the answer 3 years after our divorce. Amanda reached out, sent a message through social media. She'd seen photos of me and Emma, of our house, our life. She wanted to apologize, said she'd made terrible mistakes, that she wished she could go back and do things differently. I showed the message to Emma. "What do you want to do?" she asked. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let Amanda live with her regrets, but another part needed closure. I responded. Said I appreciated the apology but had moved on, wished her well, kept it brief and polite. She wrote back, a long message this time about how Troy had left her, how she'd struggled financially for years, how she'd realized too late what she'd thrown away, how she'd been in therapy working through why she'd done it. "I was scared," she'd written. "Scared of commitment, scared of being vulnerable. I sabotaged us because I didn't know how to accept real love." It was probably true, probably honest, but it didn't change anything. I'd moved on, built a better life, found someone who knew how to love without destroying. I told Amanda I forgave her, not for her sake, for mine. Holding on to anger was exhausting. Forgiveness meant freedom. She thanked me, said she was working on being better, on being honest. I hoped that was true. Emma asked me later if I had any regrets. About what happened with Amanda, I thought about it. "No," I said. "If she hadn't shown me who she really was, I might have wasted more years, might never have found you." Emma kissed my forehead. "Everything happens for a reason." I wasn't sure I believed that, but I believed that we could choose how we responded to what happened to us. We could let betrayal make us bitter, or we could use it to become wiser, to recognize real love when it showed up. I ran into Amanda one more time, 5 years after the divorce. I was at a grocery store with Emma, grabbing ingredients for dinner. Amanda was in the checkout line ahead of us. She looked older, tired. She saw me. Her eyes went wide. Then she smiled, small and sad. "Hi," she said quietly. Hi, I replied. Emma squeezed my hand supportively. We made awkward small talk for a minute. Amanda asked how I was. I said I was good. She could see Emma's wedding ring, the cart full of food for a family dinner, the evidence of a life well lived. I'm happy for you, Amanda said. She meant it, I could tell. Thank you, I said. I hope things are good for you too, she nodded. Getting there one day at a time. We parted ways. Emma didn't ask questions until we were in the car. You okay? She asked. I was. Seeing Amanda didn't hurt anymore, didn't trigger anger or resentment, just a mild sadness for what could have been if she'd been different, if we'd been different. That night, Emma and I talked about trust, about how fragile and precious it was. I never want you to doubt me, she said. So if you ever do, tell me, we'll work through it together. That was the difference. Emma understood that trust was built daily, through consistency and honesty and showing up. Amanda had thought trust was something she could abuse and then ask for back. You can't rebuild something you've completely destroyed. You can only build something new, with someone new. I'd learned that the hard way. But I'd learned it. The money Amanda took was gone, but the lessons it taught me were priceless. I learned my worth, learned that I deserved honesty and respect, learned that love without integrity wasn't love at all. Those lessons shaped every relationship I had after, every boundary I set, every expectation I held. Amanda had tried to break me. Instead, she'd made me stronger. That was the real revenge, not hurting her back, but becoming someone who couldn't be hurt like that again. Looking back now, I can see how every painful moment led me here, to a life I actually chose, to a partner who actually values me, to a future built on honesty instead of lies. The night Amanda drained our account while I was in the hospital was the worst night of my life, but it was also the beginning of my real life. The life where I refused to accept less than I deserved, where I demanded transparency and got it, where I found love that didn't cost me my dignity. Emma and I have 2 kids now, beautiful, healthy, happy kids. We teach them about honesty, about integrity, about treating people with respect. I tell them sometimes that hard things will happen, that people they trust might hurt them, but that pain doesn't have to define them. They get to choose what they become. I chose to become someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knows the difference between love and manipulation. And every single day, I'm grateful for that choice. Even if the path to get here hurt like hell. If you've stayed with me until the end, thank you for listening to this chapter of my life. It's not easy to share, but I believe these stories matter. They remind us that we're not alone in our struggles. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between holding onto something familiar or walking away to protect yourself? When do we fight for a relationship, and when do we recognize that leaving is the stronger choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences matter. Your voice matters. This is King's Revenge Vault, where we share real stories about real resilience. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Leave a like, share your story. Let's build a community of people who refuse to accept betrayal as their ending. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for supporting this channel. Remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself when others fail you. Until next time.